Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So this video will be against our friend Aron, and we've met him a lot of times. So he's not an old fella. He's always with us, and he's always willing to put up a good fight. So e4, e5, knight to c3, knight c6. And in this position, our friend Aron decides to go for the, hopefully, 4 knights. If I bring my knight out, that's the 4 knights, right? But some people in this position, they just like the 3 knights, so then they bring the bishop out to b4, and they might develop this knight to e7. But in this position, I decided, let's be a little bit boring. Let's play the 4 knights. And usually in this position, white plays either d4, white plays bishop to b5. But our friend Aron plays a move that looks very natural. Bishop to c4. And this move is okay, but it's sort of like black will equalize very quickly. And the move is knight takes e4. You might be like, what? The National Master's giving up a piece already? And the reason for that is, well, knight takes and d5. Look at that. 2 little boys tied up by one strong muscle. So, bishop takes d5 is one move. The other move is bishop to d3. There's queen to e2. There's multiple ways to protect the 2. But what's most important in this position is determining whether you want to save this guy or whether you want to save this guy. You don't want to give me the choice to say, yes, I get to eliminate this guy, and you don't get to do anything about it. But in this position, the best move I would say is the move bishop to d3. And the reason behind it is because this bishop is just a little bit stronger than this knight. And because of that, that is why I want to preserve the bishop here. So after pawn takes, and bishop to d6, it's all normal. Everyone's sort of equalish. I might play c3 to say, okay, if you ever play f5, I can scoot my bishop in, right? And if I castles, and we're all alright, right? Maybe there's f5, but I'll play bishop d5 check, and it's a game. But in the game, our friend Aron played bishop takes d5. And at this moment, I was pretty happy with my position because I thought, well, our friend is giving up the good bishop. So after queen takes d3, I do my duties in saying that you should always keep on developing your pieces. It's the opening, you gotta bring out your pieces, right? It's one of those fundamental things that I've been telling you. Development, the center, keeping your king safe. So castles, and now c4. I'm going to tell you why I don't like this move, and you might have seen it in some of my previous videos, but I talk about the consequences or what happens after a certain move. And so I would say the problem with this move is the d4 square now becomes extremely weak, and so does the d3 pawn, right? The d3 pawn is now what is called a backwards pawn. There is no defender to this backwards pawn. That is another pawn. It is the most backwards, right? So previously, this guy defended this guy, but now, well, he's alone. Queen d8, and now knight to g5, getting a little bit ambitious. At this point, I would have told the player who was playing the white pieces to either say, okay, what does black want to do? And at this point, I was thinking, well, I want to bring out my bishop, right? I could bring it out to g4, I could bring it out to f5. So, knowing that, if white said, okay, well, it's not exactly a threat, I'll just continue developing and bring the bishop out, I'll be completely fine with that. But also, there's this move h3 that prevents the bishop from coming to g4 and prevents the knight d4 looking pin, right? So that's something to think about. But in this case, our friend Aron played knight to g5, and here I said, well, I could play bishop to g4 if I wanted to, or I could attack this pawn. So the engine says knight to b4, which is also good, but I played bishop to f5. I just played something natural, saying, okay, your pawn is under attack. How are you going to respond? After knight to e4, just blocking off the threat, I play queen d7. Nothing big, because I'm just trying to continue to improve my pieces. Rook to e1. I'm going to bring my rook to d8, threaten the pawn on d3, and after rook to e3, which it looks like it holds everything together, right? But in fact, black has bishop takes e4, rook takes e4, and if pawn takes e4, we take the queen, rook takes e4, queen takes, rook takes, bishop to g5, and now things get a little bit confusing because I was thinking in the game take, and rook d2. This was what I was thinking in the game. But after b3, I was like, well, it doesn't do much for me, right? Just, I could play rook d8, I could maybe threaten back rank, but there's probably g3, the knight could come back to f3. I don't have anything special. So I was looking for something, right? Obviously, I saw f6, and I was like, well, I can scare away the bishop at least. And after bishop to e3, I could play f5, right? Or after bishop to d2, I could play rook to d8, which is possible, right? But I was looking for some action to confuse our friend Aron, and I wanted to see how our friend would react. I played f5, and I said, well, if you want to take here, I would be happy to. Bam, take, and take, because after bishop to c5, I'm going to take, white's going to take, and I can play king to f7, or I can play rook to d2. But I thought in my head that this looked okay, right? So after f5, our friend played rook to e3, and I was like, you want to trade, right? I'll trade, and after bishop takes, I played f4, and I said, okay, if bishop d2, e4, knight to e1, because can't come to d4 or g5, the bishop takes, the knight takes, and after knight to e1, I was planning, well, I could go bishop to f6, I could go g5 to support the pawn, I could play bishop to d6, but it's all okay. So at this point in the game, our friend Aron played bishop to c5, and I said, okay, I'll take that free piece. And our friend resigned. So what can we learn from this game? Well, we can learn that with the center fork trick, you want to keep the bishop as the white player. And afterwards, it was all good, but c4 might have created too big of a weakness. and I was constantly improving, and Rook e3 looked okay, but I got some complications. I was able to get a pawn, and after trading and a misslip of the piece, things were over. So, tough game, but as it's always a pleasure to play our friend Aron. But likewise, I'll see you next time.